This is Ian Bishop, and today I will be presenting my final game project in regards to the post-apocalyptic desert Mesa, Brethren Forsaken, a first-person shooter which also revolves around humanity versus technology in the sense that warped minds evolve technology and employ this in ways that escalate into the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse. Let us begin. Game summary. A work in progress, post-apocalyptic first-person shooter in a withered desert Mesa in the Western era of American history. The story of Brethren Forsaken takes place during the early 1890s, during the late periods of the Western era. And Brethren Forsaken will begin 9 months after the initial outbreak. The player will control the main character, known as Clayton Tanner. Clayton Tanner is a loner who is a survivor of the outbreak during the apocalypse, who seeks to uncover the truth of the plague and its origins. The player will be rewarded with knowledge along the way of uncovering the secrets of their desert Mesa by using resources and tools to do so. The player must face the Decade, which is a zombie variant and is the most common enemy along the way. The player will win once the cure is discovered and the culprit of the truth is revealed and defeated. As you can see in the top left, there's a storyboard which represents the first scenes of the game. And the bottom right is an early concept for the game. Gameplay. The game will progress through character text on screen, with the character analyzing situations and giving tasks to the player. An example of this may entail, what was that strange knocking? These parts are typically barren. I better be prepared to fight when I open that door. Task. Open front door. Unique features and scenarios entail crafting, shooting, combat, as well as interactable objects. And along the way, curing enemies with spiritual essences will also be a key component of the core features and gameplay. Current gameplay is an open world experience, which includes exploration, but the final product will feature combat within the coming weeks and months. As you can see in the top right, Clayton Tanner is being chased by the Decade, and in the top left is part of my prototype. Features and mechanics. Upon completion, interactable objects and resources will entail a matchbox, which matches to light objects, a rope, a butcher's knife, a rusty revolver. Obtainables will include a lantern, lab samples, spiritual essences to free the Decade, a machete, a Colt pistol, a Winchester rifle, a riding shotgun, ammunition, cans of tomato soup, rice, beans, a pot for cooking, stirring spoon, a flask for storing water, as well as a pouch for additional storage, which will enact as an inventory. Hazards within the game will include toxic fumes, tripwire, TNT detonators, hostile mobs, hired assassins with guns, which is an enemy variant. The economy there will be no economy in the game, as instead, items will be craftable. Currently, the mechanics will include player controls of jump, WSD, as well as interactable buildings and platforms with a coated windmill, which is visibly moves in the wind, as well as dust particles and breeze of cactus. Game world and game experience. The game experience will immerse players in a vivid environment with undead Decade, alongside other tormented souls, giving the player challenges along the way. Completed experience will capture and depict the experiments, the secrets, and the dangers of the desert Mesa, alongside the uncovering of the lab samples, which will lead to revealing and discovering the culprit behind the outbreak, alongside the efforts of the player curing the Decade along the way. The audio within the game is currently in progress and will be unsettling and emit uncertainty. The game is a first-person perspective, implemented with WSD controls, alongside abandoned structures. Upon completion, the title screen will be a sketch of the character Clayton Tanner, the main character, who will be aiming down the scope of Winchester levered action scattergun, also known as a shotgun, aiming down the barrel at a decayed entity. The music in-game will be ominous and will breathe uncertainty. Monetization. Game will be monetized on Steam and will be sold for free. Completion of game will be publicized on my YouTube channel. Intended platforms include PC and Mac. Target audience, post-apocalyptic first-person shooter enjoyers. The SRB rating is mature for mature audiences 17 and older. The projected shipping date is early 2025, with the game genre being a first-person shooter, which also entails the themes of humanity versus technology. Bonus materials. Bonuses to the game's experience include the Easter eggs. Patient 0. Drink the suspicious substance in the church's underground lab. Suspicious substance. Drink the aged liquor in the abandoned saloon. Achievements. The achievements include Mercy of a Miracle. Free the soul of a decayed entity with a spiritual essence. Kablam. Blow up the tortured tyrant. A new world. Defeat the culprit behind it all. The player cap of the experience is one person, as the game of Brethren Forsaken is intended to be a solo experience. Character. The main character of Brethren Forsaken is known as Clayton Tanner. Clayton Tanner is a distrustful 29-year-old tan Caucasian male with many years of military experience and hunting knowledge. Clayton Tanner is familiar with the comfort of his home and his oasis, but he's also well aware of the unforgiving nature of the desert Mesa. Clayton is normally a loner and often acts by his own means and does things out of personal interest. Clayton Tanner, before the outbreak began, was more open, but as the outbreak progressed, he became more closed off and became more selfish and self-centered. However, as the story progresses, while Clayton initially is solely focused on self-preservation in the early stages of the apocalypse, he begins to become more selfless, with the goal of curing and solving the mystery behind the outbreak and saving the lost souls of the decayed along the way. Clayton Tanner's goal manifests into something more, something bigger than his initial goal of self-preservation. Clayton Tanner discovers a newfound resolve to discover the truth and to unturn the mysteries behind the origins of the apocalypse. Additionally, the mysterious appearance of an important letter at the door of Clayton Tanner's home is what sparks the beginnings and the change in his fate. The controls of Brethren Forsaken, which are currently completed, include WSD for forward, backward, right, and left, jump, which is spacebar, control for crouch, as well as work in progress features such as shift to sprint, left click to attack or use, right click to interact, 1, 2, 3 for hotbar slots, E to pick up, Q to drop, as well as Y for a pouch, which is the player's interactable inventory. Environment. The environment of the game includes a local church, mountainous desert sands, an eerie and disturbing environment with ruined remnants, as well as the work in progress of a lab under the church, which will all be located in the desert Mesa. Additionally, the towns and boarding homes will be abandoned, and the completed environment will be cluttered with signs of abandoned civilization. Environmental biomes of the map represents the diversity of the decayed terrain, with methods of travel, including in the final project, travel by horseback, as well as the audio incorporated into Brethren Forsaken will include a balanced atmosphere of a post-apocalyptic world full of cruel and harsh conditions. The audio production of Brethren Forsaken is currently in development and in progress. The audio, alongside the environments, will depict the gloomy atmosphere of the decayed setting of the desert Mesa. As you can see in the top left, there's another instance of my early game project, with the top right being an early sketch of the initial designs. The enemies of the game. The enemies of Brethren Forsaken will include the most common enemy, the Decayed. Decayed are characters that are zombie-like fallen post-apocalyptic entities that have been driven mad and have an untamed, blood-curdling lust. They can be defeated with being defeated in combat with ranged weapons primarily, or by being cured with spiritual essences, which is a core component of the gameplay. Additionally, there is the Forsaken, which are lost souls of the Decayed that are too far gone to be saved. These forms of Decayed are more brutal, much more aggressive, full of bloodlust, more driven, and very, very cunning. The Forsaken can be defeated by being defeated with ranged weapons or by defeated in other means of combat. The Forsaken cannot be cured with spiritual essences as they are too far gone. Tortured Tyrant is a boss in Brethren Forsaken and will be difficult to defeat. Tortured Tyrants are artificially created monsters, hence technology getting out of humanity's grasp. Artificially created monsters that originate from human creation and experimentation, driven with the purpose to dispose of invaders and potential explorers. Tortured Tyrant is immune to physical attacks, can be defeated with being heavily shot many times, or by being intellectually defeated with explosives by being exploded with employment of TNT. Additionally, an enemy variant includes hired assassins, hired by the culprit behind the outbreak. The hired assassins will attempt to thwart your plans of unturning the secrets of the desert Mesa. Hired assassins can be defeated with ranged weapons or by other means of combat. In the top right, you see the humorous image of the cartoon sketch and early prototype models of a cowboy and cowgirl. However, this is not intended to stay in the game, and these are simply placeholders to represent other characters, which will later be much more menacing and will be enemies. Additionally, the weapons in between the two early prototype models are intended to be weapons that will be interactable later in the later versions of the prototype. As you can see in the bottom right, there's a sketch which looks similar to the man in the hat up there. And in the top left, there is many concepts and designs for abandoned buildings, lab samples, a pouch, a revolver, cactus, as well as a variant of the Decayed. Thank you. And that is my game project of Brethren Forsaken. Early prototype is in the link in the description. Thank you.